Hello dear students, today we will study about the morphology of Herdmania. Herdmania belongs to the subphylum Urochordata and we have already learned what urochordates are. Now these urochordates are the ones which show the presence of notochord in their tail region and hence classified as protochordates or the primitively formed chordates. Now, these in under the subphylum Urochordata, you have Herdmania as an example to study, and we will be learning about its morphology, how it looks like, where do you find them, and what are the different structures that you see in its body wall, and what are the different kinds of apertures it has got, and its detailed morphology. Now to start with, I have put few photos of this Herdmania species which is Herdmania mimosa, Herdmania pallida and Herdmania grandis. So observe for its apertures. One is the branchial aperture. You can find two apertures towards the anterior end. So one will be the branchial aperture, which is little larger and it acts as an in-current water goes through this, and the other being the excurrent aperture, which is the atrial aperture. And also you should observe the body of this Herdmania is sac-like. It looks like a bag. It has a sac-like body and it has got two protuberance, which we call it as two siphons. And then these siphons leads to the opening known as the apertures, and we will learn in detail what are they. Now if you look at the classification, it belongs to the phylum Chordata, subphylum Urochordata, class Acidaceae, and the example that we will be learning here is Herdmania pallida. Now this Herdmania pallida, it's a sedentary form and it sometimes attaches to a molluscan shell exhibiting commensalism. Now when we say it is a sedentary form, you find them attached to a substratum singly. It is a solitary form because it is always seen living singly, not in colonies, and sedentary form because it's always found attached to the substratum. It do not exhibit or it do not has any kind of locomotory organs in it. So it is a sedentary form. Now how it chooses a substratum during the process of metamorphosis? It just sinks down to the bottom. Whenever whatever substratum it gets fixed onto that particular substratum, and this substratum could be a rock or sand, or it could be even a molluscan shell. Now what happens when it gets attached to a molluscan shell? This molluscan shell get protection because of the presence of this Herdmania on it, because once Herdmania gets attached to the surface of this molluscan shell, no predator will come close to these mollusca and tries to eat it, because this Herdmania is unpalatable, and also it contains spicules in its body wall which in turn can harm the predator, and as a result it gets into an association with the mollusk exhibiting commensalism. It is a ciliary feeder, or it's also can be called as a filter feeder, wherein the food comes through the incurrent water or the water that comes or enters into the sac-like body through a aperture known as branchial aperture, and through this water it carries minute food particles like the diatoms, the some protozoans and some larvae, which acts as a food for this Herdmania, and they are hermaphrodites. You find both the sexes being present in the same individual, but self-fertilization will never occur because both the egg and the sperm develops at different times. Fertilization is external. These gametes are shed outside. The gametes that are formed, they are carried through the outgoing water current through the atrial aperture and it is released to the external environment where the process of fertilization takes place. Once the fertilization occurs, the zygote is formed and it hatches into an embryo, and that embryo hatches to form a tadpole larva, which we call it as an ascidian tadpole. And since there is an involvement of this larval form, the development here is indirect, and this larva, this ascidian tadpole which is formed, this shows most of the basic chordate characters when compared to the adult. And then one more unique characteristic feature of this larva is it exhibits retrogressive metamorphosis. Now this Herdmania is known by various names like sea purse, sea squirt, it's called as tunicates, and it's also known as sea potato. Now let us understand why it is called as a sea purse. If you can recollect the picture of Herdmania pallida, Herdmania species that you have seen, it had a sac-like body, so which resembles like your ancient purses. So it is called as a sea purse with an opening at the distal end. It is also called as sea squirt because when the water enters into this sac-like body and when it gets disturbed, what happens? The body contracts. As a result, when the body contracts, the water gets ejected in the form of a jet through these two apertures. That is it ejects water very forcefully in the form of a jet, because of which it is called as sea squirt. It is also called as tunicates because the body wall of this Herdmania, it is made up of the matrix of this body wall, it's made up of a substance called as tunicin, and because of this tunicin it is called as tunicates. There is one more name for this known as sea potato because it appears oblong, round to elongated in shape, and it also shows some brown, dark brown to pinkish to dark brown kind of patches on its body, and it appears like a potato, and because of that it is also called as sea potato. These are the different names which is given to this Herdmania. Now let us learn how this body of an Herdmania pallida looks like. Now this is the diagram that describes the structure of Herdmania pallida. If you see, the body is divided into two main portions. One is the body proper and the other one is the foot. Now till here this is the body proper, and here onwards it is the foot. Now if you see this body proper, it looks like a sac. This is the sac of the body wall, and the foot becomes little narrower as it tends to attach this Herdmania to the substratum, and the shape of it looks more like a oblong in shape, and if you go by its size, it almost 9 to 13 centimeters in long and 7 centimeters broad and 4 centimeters thick. If you look at its shape, it looks more like an oblong structure and laterally compressed. The foot becomes slightly narrower when compared to the body proper. Now the color of this Herdmania, when it is fresh, when it is in its living condition, it appears pinkish in color. Now later when we discuss about the blood vessels, we will understand why it becomes pinkish in color. Then it becomes yellowish to brown when it is preserved, and it exhibits one more unique character of this Herdmania is it exhibits a peculiar kind of orientation that occurs due to rotatory change that occur during the process of metamorphosis. Now if you see, this becomes the anterior region, if you observe, the anterior region is towards the branchial aperture, and then the posterior region would be here, and then this is the anterior region towards the branchial aperture. This will be the posterior region. This will be the dorsal region towards where the atrial aperture is seen, and this is the ventral region. Now this kind of different orientation occurs because the larva, once it gets attached to the substratum, it undergoes a turn by 180 degrees, thereby resulting in this kind of unique orientation. Now if you look at what are the structures that you see in this body proper, in this body proper you see two apertures which are known as the branchial aperture and the atrial aperture, and then you find two siphons or the two protuberance like this, here atrial siphon and here the branchial siphon, and it has got lobes through which the water gets ejected from this anterior atrial and the branchial apertures. Now let us learn about these apertures. We said there are two apertures. One is branchial aperture, through which the water enters into the body of an herdmannia, and this water entering the body, this carries the food and oxygen. So this branchial aperture is larger when compared to the atrial aperture, and then the atrial aperture is for the excurrent water. The water that goes out of the body of an herdmannia is thrown out through this atrial aperture, and both these apertures, branchial and the atrial apertures, they are guarded by four lobes which in turn control the movement of water in and out of the body. And then these two apertures, they are supported by these two protuberances which are called as siphons respectively, like the branchial siphon and the atrial siphon. Now when we talk about these siphons, this branchial siphon is smaller, around 1 centimeter in length, and it is directed outwards, which in turn holds the branchial aperture. Whereas atrial aperture, this is the atrial siphon, that is little longer in size, in length. It measures about 1.5 centimeters, and it is directed upwards, and it leads to the excurrent opening, that is the atrial aperture. And then both are guarded by these four lobes which in turn control the movement of water in and out of the body of this herdmannia. Now when you talk about this foot, the foot is completely made up of test or tunic, and this measures around 3 to 4 centimeter long. It appears dirty in color because of it appears dirty and rough because of the sand particles and the shell pieces and other debris come and get stuck to these tunicin or the test material, and because of this it makes the foot heavier and narrower. Now when this herdmannia falls on the sandy bottom, the animal anchors by extending its foot, which is narrow, elongated, oval or irregular depending on the nature of the substratum. So it mainly helps in the process of attachment and anchoring, and it also acts as a balancer. It also acts as a balancer to keep the body straight as the foot is heavier than the body sac. Now let us learn about the mantle or the body wall. Now the mantle or the body wall, it is secreted by epidermis, and this is not uniform. throughout the surface of the body. It is thick, opaque, highly muscular on the anterior dorsal side, and it is thin and transparent and without muscles towards the posteroventral side, that is towards the foot. Now if you look at the layer of this mantle, it is mainly made up of three layers. One is the epidermis, which in turn contains the flat hexagonal cells in a single layer. Mesenchyme, which is mesodermal in origin and it contains muscle fibers. And the inner epidermis, it contains single layer of flat polygonal cells lining the atrial cavity. Now next to the mantle is the test or the tunic, which acts as a protective jacket, which in turn protects this herdmania from the predator, and it is this test which gives a particular shape to the body of herdmania. And this also acts as a receptor organ because it contains some nerve cells in it. It acts as accessory respiratory organ. We all know that accessory respiratory organs means additional respiratory organs or additional structures that perform the job of respiration. And it is soft, thick, leathery and translucent. Now here is the section of the test in herdmania pallida. You can see that there are some terminal knobs, that is the blood vessels ending up in terms of these terminal knobs, and these knobs are nothing but the ampullae, and this ampullae holds blood once it circulated, and these ampullae are all towards the body wall. So you can see the orientation of these ampullae towards the body wall, and when this ampulla gets filled with blood, then it imparts that pinkish color to the herdmania. And also observe for this test vessels, which is number 2, then look at number 3 and 4, which are nothing but the spicules. The 3 is microscleres, which are tiny in shape, and number 4 is megascleres, that is the larger spicules that are found in the matrix. And you have different kinds of cells, round one, irregular shaped, scattered here and there. So there are different kinds of cells that are present in the test. We will learn now. Now when we talk about the test or the tunicin or the tunic, it mainly consists of these following particles or the following layers. It has a clear gelatinous matrix in which the cells are embedded. It shows various types of corpuscles in it, and it has interlacing fibrils. It has got branching blood vessels, and it shows calcareous spicules in it, which was shown in the previous picture. Now let us learn one by one in detail. Matrix, as we said, it consists of the tunicin, or which is nothing but a cellulose kind of material, and in addition it also has some proteins and minerals. Corpuscles or the cells that you see in the matrix, they are all mesodermal in origin, and there are around 6 to 7 different types of cells that are seen in the test. So in the matrix we found these cells which are mesodermal in origin. In herdmania pallida, 6 different types of cells has been reported. One is the large spherical or ovoid cells that stains easily in eosin and hence called eosinophilous cells. And then we have amoeboid cells that are smaller than the eosinophilous cells, which are few in number and scattered through the matrix. Then we have numerous small eosinophilous cells, each with an eccentric nucleus scattered throughout. And you find spherical vacuolated cells, which are rounded cells filled with small or large number of vacuoles. And then we have granular cells that lie near the surface of the test, and then small nerve cells, each giving out 2 to 6 processes and containing a large nucleus. The processes are continued into nerve fibrils, which traverse the substance of the test and connect to the various nerve cells, and because of which the test acts as a receptor organ because of the presence of this nerve cells. Now this picture gives you an exact idea as to how these cells look like. Like the first one is which is labeled A, is the large eosinophilous cells that stains easily with eosin. B is an amoebocyte because of its irregular structure, and the C is a small eosinophilous cells with 2 eccentric nucleus. You observe the nucleus are present towards the periphery. And D is a vacuolated cell full consisting of vacuoles, and E is a granular cells, and F is a nerve cell. Now here the cytoplasm is shown with dots. It appears granular, so it's a granular cytoplasm, and the darkly stained one is the nucleus. So this you should know, like the different type of cells that are present in the test. Now coming to the interlacing fibrils, these fine fibrils run crisscross, forming the network of fibers all through the mantle. And the blood vessels, they form an anastomizing network, means it branches out and end up in surface as ampullae. And when blood flows into these ampullae, which were in the form of terminal knobs, then it brings in the exchange of gaseous exchange, and thus helping in the process of respiration. Now these ampullae forms red patches on the surface, because of which we call it as a sea potato, and each ampulla is covered by a single layer of flat and many-sided cells with red pigment granules. They are richly supplied with nerve fibrils and hence it acts as a receptor, or it forms as a tactile centers. They bring blood very close to the surface and hence facilitate the respiratory exchange of gases, and thus acting as an accessory respiratory organs. We cannot call it as an organ, they function as an additionally respiratory structures. Now coming to the other main important entities that are present in the test, the spicules. Now here spicules are all calcareous in nature, and because they are made up of calcium carbonate, and there are 2 types of spicules. Based on their size, it has been classified into microscleres and megascleres. As the name suggests, micro means smaller or the tinier ones. Megascleres means larger spicules, or the larger spicules that are found in the test. Now this picture gives you an idea of how these microscleres and megascleres are present. Now just observe for these microscleres. Observe these are microscleres, and from here to here they are megascleres. In these structures also look for the head region, which is terminal knob like, and the tapering end, and this is how the microscleres are present. In megascleres you can find 2 varieties. These are spindle shaped ones, and these have a bulb here at the center, and this forms these are called as pipette shaped megascleres, and these are called the spindle shaped spindle shaped megascleres, which has tapering ends at both edges. Now let us learn one by one what is the difference between these megascleres and microscleres. Microscleres, they are found scattered only in the test, and they are small sized, around measuring about 40 to 80 microns long. It has got 2 regions, the head and the body. Head here remains round, smooth at one end, and it tapers on the other end. Whereas the body bears 5 to 20 equally spaced rings of spines. Now when you observe these spicules, you can see the spines which are arranged in the form of circular pattern. So these are called as rings of spines. And these rings of spines are larger towards the head and smaller towards the tip. Whereas megascleres, they are of two types. One is spindle shaped and the other one is pipette shaped. And why it is named based on their structures. Spindle shaped, it has got two pointed edges, and pipette shaped, it has got a bulb at the center. You must have seen this like this kind of pipettes in your labs. So since it has a bulb at the center, it is called as a pipette shaped megascleres. Now these megascleres are two types, as we said. These spindle shaped ones, they measures about 1.5 mm to 2.5 mm with tapering ends, and they are covered by 20 to 60 equally spaced rings of spines all over the body. Whereas the pipette shaped ones, they measure about 3.5 mm in length. They could be either straight or curved with pointed ends with spherical swelling in the middle, acquiring the shape of a pipette, and hence the name pipette shaped megascleres. Now when these spicules are present in the test, what could be its function? The main function of these spicules is it provides a rigid supporting framework to the body of Herdmania. It stiffens the wall of the blood vessel so that it will not collapse, and then it ward off the predators. Because of this presence of spicules in the body wall, no predators would like to eat this Herdmania, and they are the calcareous structures and it may hurt the predators and helps in protection of this Herdmania pallida. Now these are the different morphological structures that you see in an Herdmania. So this can come as a 10 marker question wherein they can ask you to describe in detail the morphology of Herdmania with a neat label diagram. So you have to write the diagram, label all the parts, and then describe its morphology and all the structures one by one as we have discussed so far. It can also, like, you may also get a 3-mark question wherein they can ask you to just sketch the diagram or sketch a neat label diagram of Herdmania. For 3 marks, you are supposed to write only a neat label diagram and no description is required for 3 marks. When you can have certain sub questions from this, like they may ask you to write a note on spicules in Herdmania. Then you have to write about microscleres and megascleres and their function along with the diagram of microscleres and megascleres for 5 marks. And then many 1 markers can come, and they may also ask you to write about the different kinds of cells or corpuscles seen in the test of an Herdmania. Then you have to write all those 6 different types of cells for 5 marks along with their diagrams. And many 1 markers can come in this, so you have to be thorough with the topic that we have discussed so far. So thanks for listening. Have a nice day.